If you're in a season where you know something needs to change, if you're feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or just off track, the first step to rebuilding yourself isn't about setting goals or making vision boards. It's about auditing your life with brutal honesty. That means holding up a mirror and being completely real with yourself about where you're at, what you're doing, and most importantly, who you're becoming. Most people skip this part because it's uncomfortable. It doesn't feel good to admit that you're not showing up as the person you want to be, that maybe you're spending hours scrolling on your phone instead of working on your craft, that you're saying yes to things that don't align with your values because you're afraid of disappointing people, or that you're avoiding tough conversations, procrastinating on your goals, and justifying it with excuses that sound logical but are really just fear in disguise. But if you want to rebuild, you need to stop lying to yourself, and yes, that includes all the little lies, the ones that sound like, "I'm too tired today, I'll start tomorrow," or "once things settle down, I'll focus on me." Things don't settle down. Life doesn't pause. You have to get better at showing up for yourself in the mess, not waiting for the mess to disappear. Start by looking at your time. Where is it actually going? Not where you think it's going, but where it truly is. Track your day for a week. Write it down. What are you doing from the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep? You'll be shocked at how much time is spent reacting instead of creating. You say you don't have time for the gym or for journaling or for starting that side project, but you've got time for Netflix, social media, and getting pulled into other people's emergencies. That's a choice. And rebuilding your life starts with taking ownership of your choices, then audit your energy. What gives you energy? What drains it? Who do you feel alive around and who leaves you second, guessing yourself? Be honest about the people you're choosing to be around. Are they inspiring you to level up, or are they keeping you small? Are you having conversations about goals, growth, and accountability, or gossip, complaints, and why everything's so hard? You become who you spend time with, period. You also need to audit your habits. Your daily actions are a reflection of your identity. If your habits don't match the future you say you want, then you're lying to yourself. Want to be healthy? Look at your meals, your sleep, your movement. Want to be a leader? Look at how you're managing your schedule, your communication, your boundaries. Your results are always the scoreboard of your habits. And rebuilding means being radically responsible for those patterns. Another layer of this it is your mindset. What do you believe about yourself right now? Are you holding on to narratives like, "I'm just not that disciplined," or "I always fall off after a few weeks," or "I don't have what it takes"? Those beliefs are shaping your reality. You can't rebuild yourself if you're anchored to an old story that no longer serves you. Part of auditing is choosing to rewrite that story consciously, intentionally, and repeatedly until your actions align with it. And finally, audit your excuses. Every time you say "I can't," replace it with "I'm choosing not to." That one shift will tell you exactly where your power is, because when you say "I'm choosing not to work out," or "I'm choosing not to apply for that job," or "I'm choosing not to speak up," it forces you to own your decision, and ownership is the birthplace of change. Auditing your life with brutal honesty is not about shame. It's about clarity, and from clarity you can create. From ownership you can rebuild. But you can't change what you're not willing to face, so face it, not perfectly, but honestly, and from there, start building the next version of you on purpose. We often think that freedom means doing what we want when we want. But that version of freedom, the no rules, no structure, everything, on my own terms kind, usually leads to chaos. It leads to missed opportunities, scattered goals, and a lot of unfulfilled potential. Real freedom, the kind that creates peace, purpose, and momentum, actually comes from discipline. More specifically, micro-discipline, those tiny, often invisible decisions you make every day. When you stack them, they lead to massive results. That's what creates macro-freedom. Micro-discipline is waking up when you said you would, even if you're tired. It's choosing a 30-minute walk instead of snoozing the alarm. It's opening your laptop to work on your project instead of scrolling TikTok. It's saying no to one more drink, one more episode, one more excuse. These moments are small, they don't feel heroic, no one's cheering you on, there's no applause, but they are the foundation for everything you're building. Here's the thing, everyone wants the outcome. Everyone wants the fit body, the successful business, the balanced life, the financial freedom, but most people aren't willing to do the boring stuff daily that leads to it. That's the gap. You're not missing motivation. You're missing consistency. Discipline closes that gap. It builds trust with yourself, and that trust is what gives you the power to go after the big stuff. Because when you can count on you to show up every day, not just when it's easy, you become unstoppable. That's not a mindset hack, that's a skill, one that's earned through repetition, not inspiration. You can't build freedom on hype. You build it by doing what needs to be done, especially when you don't feel like it. Discipline is what makes the hard things automatic. At first, it's effort, it's resistance. It feels like you're dragging yourself uphill, but with repetition, it becomes rhythm, and eventually, it becomes part of your identity. You're no longer someone trying to be consistent. You are consistent. You're no longer trying to be focused. You are focused. That's when things shift. That's when you move from chasing discipline to embodying it. And guess what happens then? You gain freedom. You have more energy because you're not exhausted from internal battles with yourself. You have more time because you've stopped wasting it on indecision or recovery from poor choices. You have more clarity because you've removed the noise. You start building momentum, and momentum creates opportunity. That's macro freedom. The kind of freedom where you get to choose your path, where you're not trapped by overwhelm or scattered priorities because your habits have created structure. That structure gives you space. Here's where people get it twisted. Discipline isn't about being rigid or robotic. It's about being strategic. It's not about controlling every second of your life. It's about controlling enough of it so that your default mode supports your vision. Discipline doesn't limit your life. It removes the unnecessary so you can focus on what actually matters. So if you're telling yourself, I just need more time, or I need better circumstances, stop. What you actually need is more ownership of your daily decisions. You don't need a life overhaul. You need a few micro disciplines you can repeat daily, no matter what. 5 minutes of journaling, 10 minutes of movement, a shutdown ritual at night, a system for your mornings. These tiny disciplines are quiet, but they are powerful. Over time, they redefine who you are and what you're capable of. And when life gets messy, and it will, your discipline is what keeps you grounded. It's your baseline. It's the difference between starting over again and again or building a foundation that lasts. You don't need motivation every day. You need a system that works even when your motivation disappears. So yes, discipline is small, but it's everything. When you commit to it, not just when you're inspired, but especially when you're not, you unlock a life that feels expansive, aligned, and in your control. That's not luck, that's earned freedom, and it starts one tiny, disciplined decision at a time. Your environment is shaping you whether you realize it or not. It influences how you think, how you feel, what you prioritize, and how consistent you are with your goals. The people you talk to, the content you consume, the places you spend time in, these are not neutral. They're either pushing you forward or holding you back. That's why if you're serious about rebuilding yourself, you have to protect your environment like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it actually does. Think about how many times you felt inspired, had a plan, started strong, only to fall back into old habits. It's not because you didn't care enough. It's not because you didn't want it badly enough. It's because your environment didn't support the version of you were trying to become. If you're surrounded by people who think growth is too much, who make fun of your boundaries, who live in a cycle of complaining and comfort, you're going to have a hard time breaking out. You can have all the ambition in the world, but if your environment normalizes mediocrity, that will become your baseline. Protecting your environment doesn't mean cutting everyone off or living in a bubble. It means being intentional. It means curating your space, your schedule, and your circle so they reflect your standards, not your fears. It means asking hard questions like, who do I feel drained around? What kind of conversations am I having daily? Does my space make it easier or harder to focus, to create, to grow? Start with your physical space. Is your environment chaotic or clear? Are you holding on to clutter because it's familiar, even though it weighs you down? Your space should be a reflection of your goals. If you want to be focused, your environment should feel clean and organized. If you want to feel creative, your space should be inspiring. You don't need a fancy setup. You need a space that supports your energy. Next, look at your digital environment. This one's sneaky. You might not realize it, but what you're scrolling through every day is either feeding your goals or distracting you from them. Is your feed full of creators, leaders, and voices that challenge you, that stretch your thinking, that remind you of your vision? Or is it noise, drama, comparison, distraction, and negativity? You are programming your brain with what you consume. Don't take that lightly. Then, evaluate your social environment. Who are the 5 people you spend the most time with, and are they elevating you or enabling you? This isn't about judging others, it's about protecting your momentum. Rebuilding yourself is hard enough without constant exposure to doubt, fear, or scarcity thinking. You need people around you who believe in personal responsibility, who call you out when you're slipping, who don't water down their goals to make you comfortable. If that's not your circle, you have work to do. Sometimes protecting your environment means setting boundaries, saying no, stepping away from conversations that go nowhere, and outgrowing relationships that once made sense but no longer align. That's painful, but staying stuck is more painful. You can't rebuild your life while trying to keep everyone comfortable. Not everyone will understand your growth. That's okay. You're not doing it for them. There's also an inner environment to protect, your mental space. Are you feeding your mind with clarity, confidence, and perspective? Or are you letting fear, comparison, and self-doubt take over? Protecting your environment includes protecting yourself, your focus, and your energy. That means creating quiet space, daily reflection, and being mindful of what thoughts you entertain. You can't create a powerful external life if your internal environment is in chaos. Protecting your environment is not a one-time decision. It's a lifestyle. It's waking up and asking what around me supports who I want to become and what needs to shift, because you are not just a product of your environment, you are the designer of it. And the more intentional you become, the more powerful your transformation will be. So treat your space, your people, your habits, and your mindset like your future depends on them, because it does. Believing in yourself isn't something you're born knowing how to do. For most people, it's something that gets chipped away over time, by criticism, by failure, by comparison, by people who didn't see your potential or couldn't handle your ambition. If you've lost your confidence or never fully had it to begin with, you're not broken. You're just human, and if you're on a path of rebuilding yourself, one of the most powerful things you can do is relearn how to believe in yourself, not as a concept, but as a practice. Most people think belief is a feeling that magically shows up when everything is going right. But belief isn't passive. It's not a reward you get after you succeed. It's a decision you make when things are messy, when nothing is certain, when all the voices in your head are telling you you're not ready. Belief is something you build by proving to yourself over and over again that you can trust your word, your actions, your resilience. To relearn belief, you have to start by rewriting the story you tell yourself. You've probably been carrying a narrative that was never yours to begin with, something someone told you years ago, or a moment that went wrong and stuck. Maybe you failed at something once and decided you were a failure. Maybe someone dismissed your dream and you agreed with them. That version of the story lives in your subconscious and runs on autopilot. Relearning belief means questioning it, asking, is this actually true? Is this story helping me? And more importantly, what would change if I chose a different story? Then you build new evidence, because belief without evidence doesn't last. If you want to believe in your discipline, show up for yourself every day, even in small ways. If you want to believe in your voice, start speaking up, even when it's scary. If you want to believe in your ability to succeed, take action even when you're not guaranteed a win. You don't need a huge transformation overnight. You need a pattern of keeping promises to yourself. When you do what you say you'll do, especially when it's hard, you create proof that you are capable. That proof turns into belief. Part of this process also involves separating your identity from your past. You are not your mistakes. You are not your worst moments. You're not even your current circumstances. Who you are is who you decide to be moving forward. Every time you take a step aligned with the future version of you, you're reinforcing belief in that version. Every decision is a vote. The more votes you cast for the person you want to become, the more real that person becomes. It's also critical to monitor the way you speak to yourself. If you're constantly criticizing, minimizing, or second-guessing yourself, it becomes impossible to build confidence. You would never follow a leader who constantly told you, "You're not good enough," or "You'll probably mess this up." So why are you trying to follow yourself while using that voice? You need to become your own leader. Speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you truly believe, indirect, honest, and encouraging. This doesn't mean you ignore your flaws or pretend things are perfect. It means you approach your growth with compassion and grit. You own your mistakes, learn from them, and then keep moving. Belief is not about perfection. It's about resilience. It's about showing up again and again and again, until your actions prove what your thoughts didn't fully believe yet. Surround yourself with people who see your potential, not just your past. Your environment plays a huge role in your self-perception. Being around others who believe in growth, who challenge you, who remind you of your strength, that matters. But even more important is learning how to do that for yourself. Because if you can learn to be the one who believes in you when no one else does, you become unstoppable. Relearning how to believe in yourself takes time, but it's worth every second. It's the foundation for every goal, every breakthrough, and every version of success you're chasing, and it starts now with a decision to stop waiting for permission and start acting like the person you were always meant to be. Most people walk through life hoping to one day find themselves. They wait for clarity to show up like a lightning bolt. They expect purpose to reveal itself, for motivation to magically arrive, for confidence to just appear once they've achieved something big enough. But identity doesn't emerge on its own. It's not something you stumble across. It's something you design, intentionally, daily, with focus and repetition. If you're rebuilding yourself, this is the shift you have to make. Stop waiting to become someone different and start building that version of yourself on purpose. Who you are is not fixed, it's flexible. It's created through what you decide to believe, what you consistently do, and what you choose to tolerate. And the most powerful thing you can do is start acting like the person you want to become before it feels natural. Designing your identity starts with clarity. Who is the next level version of you? How does that person think? How do they show up on a Monday morning? What do they say no to? What do they tolerate? What kind of boundaries do they set? What does their day look like? That's not a fantasy version of you. That's a blueprint, and it's your job to build toward that blueprint with every decision. Too often, we think change has to start with our circumstances. We tell ourselves, once I have more time, I'll be disciplined. Once I get the promotion, I'll be confident. Once I feel ready, I'll start. But identity doesn't wait for ideal conditions. It's forged in the middle of resistance. If you want to be someone who follows through, start keeping small promises today. If you want to be a leader, start leading where you are. With your mindset, your actions, and your example, identity becomes real when your habits match your vision. This means taking responsibility for how you show up, even when no one is watching, especially then, because who you are when things are boring, hard, or inconvenient, that's your real identity. You don't need to have it all figured out to start living with intention. You just need to stop outsourcing yourself. worth to results. Instead, decide, this is who I am now, and I'm going to live in alignment with that, no matter what the outside looks like yet. It also means breaking up with the version of yourself that's keeping you stuck. That might sound dramatic, but let's be honest. Part of rebuilding is letting go of habits, beliefs, and even relationships that reflect who you used to be, not who you're becoming. You can't grow and stay comfortable at the same time. Designing your identity means consciously choosing discomfort. It means being willing to feel awkward, to feel uncertain, to feel like a beginner, because that's what real growth demands. You also have to manage the stories you tell yourself. If you keep saying, I've never been consistent, or I always quit, or that's just not me, then you're designing an identity rooted in limitation. Rebuilding requires language that aligns with your goals. Start saying things like, I'm becoming someone who follows through. I'm training myself to be focused. I don't need to feel ready. I just need to start. These aren't affirmations, they're instructions. And they tell your brain what to pay attention to. Don't underestimate the power of repetition. Identity isn't built from one big breakthrough. It's built from showing up in alignment with your future self again and again. One focused hour, one honest conversation, one disciplined decision. These moments are not small, they're foundational. They're what make your identity real, not just in theory, but in practice. Stop waiting for a version of you to show up and rescue you. You are the version, you are the designer, and the moment you realize that, everything changes. Confidence comes from congruence. When your daily actions match your inner standard, belief follows, momentum follows. Transformation follows, so decide who you are, not later, now, and start living like it, not when it's easy, but exactly when it's hard, because that's the moment identity becomes real.